Hey y'all, welcome to the podcast. I'm Jade.
And I'm Paul.
And this is Shall We Compare Thee, a remake and sequel podcast.
This is the one where we review and analyze our favorite films and decide if they hold up to their modernized and reimagined counterparts.
Yes, that's right. And only one can survive. And we are here to make that call. So, Paul, tell the folks what we're talking about today.
Today, it's all about the Peter's Pan.
The Peter Pan.
Yes, we're going to be going to that Disney cartoon from 1953. We're going to be going into that musical starring Mary Martin that was on TV in 1960. We're going to be going into 2003 Peter Pan, directed by P.J. Hogan. We're going to be talking about the 2023 Peter Pan and Wendy on Disney Plus, and the sequel, 1991's Hook, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, and Julia Roberts.
Odds, bobs, hammer, and dongs, Paul. That's a whole lot of Peter Pan.
It's a lot of Peter Pan.
It's a lot.
And we can't get into it without listening to the trailers. So let's roll those trailers.
Bang-a-rang.
Over the past century, there have been few stories that can truly be called a classic. One that has stood the test of time. One that has enthralled millions of children and adults alike. A story that has proven to be the most endearing and sentimental classic for generations of children.
It's all the fun, all the fantastic adventure of a dream come true. It's Walt Disney's Peter Pan.
I have a place where dreams are born and time is never planned. Let's fly!
Oh my God, where are we going?
To Never Never Land.
Where?
A world where you'll never have to grow up or grow old. Come with me. All you have to do is leave home behind.
Are you?
Los Pues!
Every last one of us.
But you're not all boys. So?
Peter Pan's enemy, the notorious Captain Hook.
We search, as ever, for Peter Pan. Have you seen him?
Sakstoha Tanu Setko.
She said sorry, but no.
I hate Peter Pan.
Brace yourselves, lads.
Originally, we were going to do four Peter Pans. We were going to do the Disney cartoon, the musical, the Hook, and the 2023 Peter Pan and Wendy. And then Jade said the 2003, it seems like people like it. And she got a message from one Charity Dawn, who also thought that we should cover the 2003.
Yes.
And so the quad pod turned into a pentapod. It's the first time, but I'm going to say right now, it's not the last that's going to happen.
That's true.
So we watched 5 Peter Pan stories.
And we showed
Jade, how did you take this assignment?
Well, okay, wait, one thing before we go any further.
Absolutely.
An FYI, this episode will be available as a video as well. So it's like going to be a bonus on my Patreon. And if you don't already listen to me on my Perfectly Marvelous podcast, all about the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but you would still like to, see the video version of this podcast, complete with screen sharing videos and all kinds of fun stuff, then you can go to patreon.com/perfectlymarvelous and sign up for at least, a 1-month payment, and you can see us. You can see this video. And yeah, so you wouldn't have heard that announcement if you don't follow me from Mrs. Maisel, but check it out. It might be fun. It might be cool. I enjoy seeing what people look like when I listen to podcasts. So, we're pretty ugly, but if you're into that, then you might want to see our faces.
I might be the most attractive man alive. So you won't know until you see the video.
And there is the thing about Paul. He only podcasts in the nude. So
that's true. That's true.
Yes.
The shirt I have on right now is just a filter that Zoom gives me, and I pay extra for it, but it's worth it.
So if you'd like to see Paul in all his gloriousness.
Oh, there's nothing glorious about it. Let me ask you this: 5 Peter Pans. How do you feel after 5 Peter Pans?
Whew. It's a lot. I feel like I can fly. I feel like I've drunk poison. I've died and I've come back again. I've gotten swallowed by a crocodile and I've come out the other end. It's
okay.
It's been a lot. Yeah. No, the thing about doing 5 films that is like the trickiest is just the fact that they get like jumbled in your mind. So my notes are going to like save my butt, and hopefully I'll be able to remember what I was referencing. Fingers crossed, when I read these notes.
Yeah, it really does become. It was so. The memories of our first episode. Was it ever so simple?
I know.
To do 2 movies that had the exact same plot and the exact same scenes. And yet this one now we are just biting off 5 Peter Pans, which are for the most part, and Hook is definitely the outlier on this, but the 4 other ones are fairly similar plot-wise. You're getting different characterizations. You're getting a couple of different scenes here and there. The endings are a little bit different, but for the most part, those 4 stories are pretty similar. Mm-hmm. But you seem to have enjoyed your time in Neverland. Was this a childhood favorite story of yours?
It really, yeah.
Okay.
And like I knew that. I just had kind of forgotten how much it means to me. And I say it in the present tense because this story it means a lot to me. It is one of my favorite fairy tales. And it's kind of weird. It's like almost not like, so my favorite fairy tales are The Wizard of Oz and, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland. It's stories that start with kids in the real world, a family in the real present time, not in a fantasy land. And then the kids fall asleep, they have a dream, they go down a rabbit hole, they get into a tornado and carried off to a magical land. And then I just love that. And then a lot of times there's parallels, like the adults will have counterparts, they'll have doubles in the fantasy story. I just love those kinds of things. That's my jam when it comes to, like bedtime fairy tale childhood stories. I've kind of realized this about myself. Yeah.
This was a favorite of mine growing up. I remember watching the Disney cartoon on Wonderful World of Disney. I had the picture book with the vinyl record, which I found a recording of. Yes. The Disneyland ride, the Peter Pan's Flight, was one that I went on when I was a child, and I think contributed to my fear of flying. Because in the old version, I don't know what it is now, but the old version was you were on a pirate ship and you go out of the Darling house and all of a sudden you're over London and you see Big Ben and you see lights and everything. And I remember as a child, I did not know how high up I was at that point. Like, am I 2 feet off the ground? Am I 20 feet off the ground? If I fell out of this car, would I get like a sprained ankle or would I die? And that has stuck with me forever and ever. And then, of course, I was in the musical in high school. I got to be Smee in high school.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to be Captain Hook, but the director decided that Captain Hook was too complex of a character for a high school senior to play.
So they got an adult?
They got an adult to play Captain Hook, but they had a kid still play Mr. Darling, which I felt was cheating. If you're going to go that way, go that way.
Seriously.
By the way, just in general, for future Peter Pans, Hook and Mr. Darling should always be played by the same actor.
Oh, we'll get there.
Always.
We will get there.
Always.
I concur, sir.
I mean, that's kind of part of the point of the story is that sort of relationship between Wendy and the kids and their father, who's a little bit distant, a little bit, paying attention to other things, not paying attention to the kids. And Captain Hook is like the evil side of that.
Right.
It's that other part of his personality. And then I'd seen Hook when I probably saw that in the theater. That was kind of a big Robin Williams time. And it was a huge deal that Dustin Hoffman was going to be in it. And it was also a huge deal that Julia Roberts was going to be Tinkerbell. Julia Roberts was hot at the time. And then the other two I have not ever seen before until this. I enjoyed parts of each one of these. The hardest part is dealing with Peter Pan for 5 movies. The character of Peter Pan for 5 movies. He's the worst character in the piece. I mean, he really is. I mean, he's kind of set up that way, right? He's supposed to be the carefree, I don't care about anybody. I just want to have fun. I just want to be adventurous. And I don't care if I put my friends in harm's way as long as I'm having an adventure. But sometimes he just comes off kind of being a jerk. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to root for that. I mean, he's such a static character too. He doesn't change very much. And even the ones where he does change a little bit, by the end of it, it's all set up that, well, and he forgets everything that happened. So he may change a little bit, but then he's tabula rasa. And I had forgotten that part of him. And it was disappointing to see that he wasn't going to grow at all.
Yeah.
What we're going to do for this episode, by the way, is I've written down on this piece of paper over here to my right, the movie that I think Jade liked the best.
And I have done the same for Paul.
At the end, when we vote for the one that's going to survive, we will reveal what we thought the other person was going to save. And
we're going to do a cool thing where we, instead of saying who is the best actor, MVP or LVP like we did last time for Psycho, we're going to do make your dream cast. So if you could pick one Peter, one Wendy, one Hook, one of the major characters from out of the cast that is presented to us in these 5 films, we're going to build our dream cast. So listeners, play along at home, be thinking about who your dream Peter Pan and Wendy would be so that you can build your perfect Peter Pan cast at the end of this podcast.
It's the Peter Pan fantasy draft, and we want to hear what you have to say. Well, where do we want to start with this?
I want to start by talking about Mr. J.M. Barrie just a little bit, because he has a lot of connection in his personal life to the story of Peter Pan. So J.M. Barrie, he had a very grim view of motherhood. His own mother was very strict, very puritanical. And she lost her own mother when she was only 8 years old. So she had to grow up very quickly. She took over running her household. She took care of her father and her siblings. So she kind of never got J.M. Barrie's mother never got a chance to be a child herself. So a little Wendy-ish in that way, right? So James, or Jamie, as he was called as a child, he was one of 5 children. He was the runt of the litter, and he was also not the favorite of his mother. His parents were always a little disappointed in him and saw him as head in the clouds, Jamie, always daydreaming. And his brother, David, was the favorite. And David tragically died in a skating accident when he was very young. I think he was 12, David was, and J.M. Barrie would have been 7 or 8 years old. I can't remember. But his mother was inconsolable about this. And the only thought that comforted her was knowing that David would always be an innocent little boy, preserved in death, kind of like a lost boy himself. So there's that connection too. And Jamie resorted to wearing his brother's clothes and acting like his brother and taking on his brother's personality. And he learned to whistle in the same way his brother did to cheer up his mother because she missed David so much. And that got his mother to kind of take notice of him. And he was only able to really get her like love and approval when he made himself to be as much David as possible, which I think is very sad. Yeah, so J.M. Barrie was very short. He had like a massive complex about his appearance. He wasn't the most, studly gentleman. I think that he fancied himself in his imagination. He wanted to be this kind of smooth talking, charismatic Peter Pan, who could charm all the ladies, just fall and fawn over him just by, he flutters past and just the ladies swoon, he wanted to be that guy. He had very low self-esteem when it came to women, but he did marry an actor in his play. Her name was Mary Ansell. And after he proposed to her, he traveled to tell his mother about this, and he got terribly sick. He got like cold feet to the extreme. Like he was deathly ill because of the anxiety. Oh my God, now I actually have to marry this woman, Yeah, I feel like marriage kind of scared him to death. And he was a little like in this arrested development phase because even though he was married, his marriage was never consummated. And that is stated as fact in a lot of his biographies. I don't know how they know that as a fact, and I don't know if it is a fact, but everyone is like, yeah, he never had sex with Mary. So
Wow.
They did and Mary did have an affair, and when he found out, he was just, devastated, of course, but he divorced his wife and then continued to pay her alimony until the day he died. Good on him. So anyway, about Peter Pan. So he befriended the Llewellyn Davis family, and they had 5 sons, and they seemed to really, really love J.M. Barrie. And when the parents died, he was appointed the boys' guardian.
Llewellyn Davies is the family name?
Yeah.
Do you remember the Coen Brothers movie Inside Llewyn Davis?
Yeah, I know, right? That's the first thing I thought of.
I wonder if it's somewhere back there in their brains that was part of that Peter Pan lore.
I'm sure it is, because the Coens love themselves a good, they love their tales as old as time, like their Greek archetypes and, folklore. And I feel like that's why I love the Coen Brothers films, because they talk about these epic character traits in their, and it's like a through line in their films. That's why they're great, and that's why they're kind of timeless.
We will find a Coen Brothers movie to do on this for somehow.
I know it's going to be difficult though, because they don't tend to do remakes. Another reason why I love them, because they just know how to come up with original content. As far as Peter Pan, J.M. Barrie wrote dozens and dozens of versions of Peter Pan. He could not settle on an ending. So almost every version, and depending on who he was telling the story to, like which child he was talking to, every time he wrote a play and every time he put on a different production of Peter Pan, he would change the ending based on the actors, based on how he was kind of feeling in his life at the present moment. Like this story, he had a very hard time settling on an ending and finally publishing it.
This is the story of Peter Pan. You can read along with me in your book. You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear the chimes ring like this. Let's begin now.
What did you think of the cartoon?
Yes. So, okay. I was that kid who was very into, I was a very precocious little shit.
This is shocking to me.
Oh, right. Isn't it though? I mean, what happened to me? When did I become this way? It's so different, right? So I was very into being an adult, as adult-like as I could be, hanging out with the adults, and I didn't like to do any little kid things. And I was a firstborn child in my family. So I just remember always feeling like an adult child, and just to get into a little bit of my personal life, I had a pretty crazy childhood, and the trauma was there's some trauma, haven't we all had our trauma, but I did have a loss of innocence, kind of happen to me, very early on. So I didn't realize it until I got older. I'm like, wow, I don't really remember experiencing childhood in the way that a lot of other people describe it, like this innocent, carefree time, because of things that happened to me because of this situation I was put into, whatever, with, you know, the people who were supposed to take care of me kind of dropping the ball. And so Peter Pan, that's why I think it's even more special to me, because just to talk a little bit about how I feel about the story, just because I can relate to it so much. I can relate to Peter Pan desperately wanting to hold on to innocence and the fear of it slipping away, and almost putting your fingers in your ears and like, la, 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 I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I don't want to grow up. No, I won't, you know? I feel that that's almost how I've become, like, as an adult. I just refuse to let go of my imagination and the carefreeness, and I kind of refuse to settle down, and I'm just kind of like a wild little spirit flitting about in the world. And that's just my chosen, it's my chosen way to be. But so anyway, back to the cartoon. So as a kid, I was very into realism, and I was very into, I called them people movies, not cartoons. My sister loved cartoons. She's an amazing artist. She was obsessed with cartoons, and we would always fight over what we were going to watch. And I just, every time a cartoon came on television, I would just like look the other way. I would leave the room. I would go hang out with my parents or their friends, or, whatever, or write in my journal or something. So I don't remember the cartoon. I have no affection for it. It doesn't like hold a special place in my heart nostalgically. That would be the Mary Martin Peter Pan. That's my jam right there. So I told Paul this already. I rented it from the library so many times that I broke it. I broke the tape, and we had to go back to the library and say, oops, sorry. And they were like, no, it's okay. We'll just order another one. And my mom was like, you're going to need to order 2 copies, because we're just going to have to buy one so that we can own it, because we can't keep doing this. We can't keep renting it. Because I would just play, that and The Wizard of Oz, I could just like literally play on repeat.
This movie, this Disney animated feature, comes at the end of a pretty impressive run for Disney. Disney had to stop making feature films for a while during World War II. They were making propaganda films. This really comes out of the next phase in 1950. Cinderella, followed by Alice in Wonderland, followed by Peter Pan. I mean, that is a murderer's row of classic animated features. And this is also the first male human lead title character of one of their movies. Before that, the male characters were all animals. You got your Dumbo, you got your Bambi, or they were Pinocchio, who becomes a human at the very end. Up until that point, he's a sentient puppet. All the rest of their movies were Snow White, Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, Sleeping Beauty, the princesses that we know today.
Well, Alice isn't a princess. Alice is a little more similar to this kind of story.
Exactly. But definitely like female-oriented stuff. It is not, I don't think, a coincidence that Disney's first male lead is Peter Pan. You're going to hear a lot of directors say, I was a little bit like Peter Pan when I was growing up, or I feel a little bit like Peter Pan now. And if you're on the first date and you're on the date with a director and you're asking about movies, and he says, what I've always wanted to do is a remake of Peter Pan because I feel like I'm a little bit like Peter Pan inside. The window in the bathroom will not let you out, but there's always a back door in the kitchen, and the kitchen staff will understand why you have to go through that door. Just tell them Peter Pan guy out there at the bar.
I got a Peter Pan on my hands.
Yeah, exactly. Just like
call your girlfriend and set up a text code. PP.
Yeah, exactly. Because while he might be a character to think about, like in terms of like keeping your childhood and keeping a sense of wonder and keeping that spark inside of you, he's also not a great match. As Wendy finds out, as Tinkerbell finds out, as Tiger Lily finds out in this, and the mermaids, they all find out. Disney, they are all like hot for Peter. How old is he?
It's definitely movies? Undefined. It is undefined in the book. It is, they never say. But I will say in the book, they talk about it a lot, that he has all of his baby teeth, which is a tad disturbing.
In the first story, he's 7 days old when he escapes his mom.
When he runs away,
I will say, to jump around a little bit, one of my favorite scenes in Hook is the scene where little 7-day-old Peter's in the pram.
Oh yeah,
and mom's
rolls down.
Oh god,
hill.
he's like, mom's talking about.
Off I go.
Well, he's going to go to this school and he's going to go to this office and he's going to work here, and he's like,
go Hot Wheel pram.
Exactly. I'm out.
Yeah, that was really funny. I cracked up in that.
That was one of my favorite parts of that one. But so I think he's supposed to be. I mean, definitely prepubescent, definitely preteen. I think you're looking at like an 11 or 12-year-old, but he's also an immortal. We don't really know how long he's been around. And I started to think of him as Dracula. He's frozen in this age. He's got The Lost Boys, one of the great vampire films of the 80s, doing his bidding.
That's right.
And then he has to go get a woman. He's not going to drain the blood, but he's just definitely going to drain the last bit of energy and patience from her. And then he's going to live forever. I mean, it's a weird story to place like this whole like 4-way love quadrangle in the first one. I guess that's just what they thought people would like. I don't even know if it's that much in the story of the J.M. Barrie wrote. Like, is there that much competition between the female characters for him?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So they are hungry. They are thirsty for some pita. Oh yeah.
Wow. This is more and more. There's some wish fulfillment going on in Barrie's world.
Yeah, the question I think is for let's take Tinkerbell, right? Since we're on this Tinkerbell track here, is it that she wants to stop Peter and Wendy from getting together because she's jealous because she wants to be in that romantic position with Peter, or does she want to stop their connection because if Peter kisses Wendy for real, like a real kiss, and gets to see Wendy as a woman, then Peter will grow up. And especially in the cartoon, Tinkerbell was hot. You know, she's pretty darn sexy. And people have said like, oh, she was drawn after Marilyn Monroe. And like, that's been disproven. Obviously, Marilyn Monroe wasn't even that famous in the early 50s, but she's got this like bombshell body, and she was revolutionary because she was so sassy, and she's this like modern woman who takes control of her situation, and she's not afraid to be a little off-putting, which is not what women were, you know, in the 50s. It was like happy housewife, perfect woman, you know, kind of like a Wendy, like a Mary Sue, you know. Tinkerbell wasn't no Mary Sue.
No, but still Tinkerbell was concerned about the width of her hips.
And remember when Peter like spanked her butt to get the fairy dust off of her? Like he spanked her ass.
Yeah.
I was like, well then.
Yeah, let me get some of that dust out of you there.
But Tinkerbell gets legit pissed at Wendy, and she like burns through a leaf when she sees Wendy and Peter are, you know, starting to connect with each other like that. I was like, ooh,
well, she wants her shot out of the sky. I mean, if Wendy dies, Tinkerbell's happy. You know, she's convincing him that's just a big white bird out there, and it's like, great, let's shoot her down.
Shoot the Wendy bird. And one of my favorite lines in the cartoon is when the mermaids go, "We were only trying to drown her." That's like one of my favorite lines in any Disney movie ever.
This is one of the last movies. I think that this is the last movie that the 9 old men that did a lot of the Disney cartoons. This is the last one they did together. So you're getting a lot of great backgrounds. You're getting a lot of wonderful scenery. There's definitely like a little Looney Tunes that has drifted into their game, because there are some, what I like to call Bugs Bunny-isms that appear. That shot of the crocodile who like is going through the water, and all of a sudden his eyebrows go
little
up and down, up and down. It's like, it's like straight to camera. There's a little bit of that's going on.
the chicken butt or the bird butt shaving moment.
I wrote down bear bird butt. Bear bird butt is right in my notes right here.
Yep.
And I'm trying to decide how to talk about this. Indian, Native American, indigenous people.
Like,
how do we want to do this?
Okay, so like it's weird because I just learned because I just recently met my bio dad, my birth father, and learned
nice.
and I learned like all of my my heritage, my what my blood is made up of, the different nationalities and everything that encompass who I am. And I learned that I'm a quarter Native American from the the Pequannock tribe. So although I am a quarter Native American, I have no connection to that. I have no ability to make any kind of a call on what is okay and what is good representation and what is not. So if I say Indian, it's just because that's what they're called in all these films.
That's how I'm approaching it too.
I'm going to try to say Native American, but sorry if I don't at me like I'm a bad podcaster if I say Indian. Sorry.
Well, and of course, when Barry's writing this story and he's putting in pirates and he's putting in Indians, I mean, look, when I was growing up in the 70s, I had a brother named David too. My brother and I would play Cowboys and Indians.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it came around to Thanksgiving time in the classroom, we were making the headbands with the feather and we were playing all those games. And
when we had to sit in a circle at share time or whatever, we would sit Indian style,
Absolutely.
That was
absolutely.
And I'm not like that old, and that was my upbringing too, So I don't know when this ended. Like what was the cutoff date when Cowboys and Indians was like no longer passed down to children, and when Indian style was not like how you refer to sitting cross-legged. I mean, I don't know when that happened, but not too long ago, sadly.
It should have ended after the song "What Made the Red Man Red."
Oh Lord,
that should have been the death knell of calling Native Americans Indians. Disney Plus, they put a disclaimer on the front of this movie now saying that, and I'm not going to read it verbatim, I'm just going to say it paraphrases as, look, we know there's some problems with this, and there was problems then, and it's still a problem now, but you know what? We're going to leave it there so we can, teach the controversy.
And it says something like, allow this to spark a conversation among your group of family or friends, and figure out how you can do better in the future.
Exactly. So let me spark this conversation right now. Cut the song out. Cut the song out.
Yeah.
It doesn't further the plot. The only thing that happens in that scene that's important is Tiger Lily and Peter Pan get a little friendly. Peter Pan gets red-faced. Wendy gets mad and leaves. That's it. The rest of it, you can cut around that song, but that song just does not need to be there.
I wouldn't say to cut. I don't know. I mean, that's just probably me being, it's not my fat in the fire, even though I'm a quarter Native American, which is very funny. Like I have no connection to that heritage. So, I would always say like err on the side of leaving things in and then let it be up to your discretion whether or not you want to view it. But the lyrics, I have some of them written down here. It's this colonialism is a huge part of the book. This whole the white people came in and really saved those savages, and it's not good, guys. Like it's not a good mindset. Obviously, this is very wrong. Oh, so very wrong. The lyrics are, once the Injun didn't know all the things that he know now, but the Injun, he sure learn a lot. And it's all from asking how. And then it's Hana Hana Ganda Hana Hana Ganda. We translate for you. Hana means what Hana means. And Ganda means that too. Red man is red from, and then and then I just wrote a note for myself. So basically, in conclusion, the red man, what makes the red man red? Well, the red man is red from blushing when a girl kisses him. That's the point of the song. We really needed this song to tell us that.
It's basically Kiss the Girl from Little Mermaid, where it's like, we have a song to get two people together. Fine. cut around it. Take that song out and then put in the words to the best song in this movie. Never smile at a crocodile. Now it's in the instrumental form as dum bum bum ba ba bum 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 ba ba bum bum ba 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 bum bum bum. But there are words to it now, and put that in. Put that in instead. Make that a thing.
Who doesn't love that song?
Make the crocodile sing it. It's a Disney movie. The crocodile can sing it. Why not?
They did their best to make the crocodile look scary, but I thought he was still kind of cute.
The crocodile was kind of adorable at times.
Yeah, I wasn't sure why they didn't try to make him scarier. I was surprised by that. I had forgotten about that.
The last note that I have is I needed a peace pipe to get through this.
To get through the cartoon?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I thought you would have liked it way more or been way more.
I thought it was going to too. But yeah, there was parts of it. I mean, again, there's parts of it that are wonderful. But where it really is not good, it really is not good.
I agree with you about the cartoon. I was very bored watching it again. I like the beginning. I really was enjoying the beginning, and I was like, okay, all right, I can get into this. I forgot how kind of delightful this was with like the family and everything, and the flying. You know, it's meant to be seen this way. There are no wires. It's wonderful. You know, you're always kind of looking for the wires. It's just you're always, you know. Unless you're like a child and you are able to see things with that childlike wonder where you don't, you're like, wires, what are wires? No, they're fucking flying. We're adults and we're jaded. I'm very, no pun intended. Pun always intended for me when I say the word jaded.
Well, you can be jaded if I can be appalled.
That should be the name of our podcast.
Jaded and appalled.
That's actually
switching it up. We're switching it up.
All this has happened before, and it will all happen again. But this time it happened to Wendy, John, and Michael Darling.
So let's get into Mary Martin and
oh my goodness,
Cyril Ritchard, Tony Award winners for this.
Yes.
And I would say deservedly so.
Yay. Oh, you liked it.
It's a children's story. This one really captures the children's story of it all. It's very inoffensive. It's not very violent. It's fun. Even we just talked about the Indian stuff with the cartoon. I think they handled it better than the cartoon. It almost seemed to me like they were another group of Lost Boys who were deciding to dress up as Indians. And, they kind of hinted at this in the cartoon, that they just kind of play these games. Like one hunts the other one and captures. And then the next day it's like this elaborate game of tag or capture the flag or something like that until Tiger Lily gets kidnapped, and then it becomes serious. But in the musical, I think they handled that as the best of any of these movies, I thought.
And dude, the dance numbers, the songs, bang. I mean, bangers. Like, oh my gosh. And the formation dancing that the Indians do, that they do that like cool thing where they all stand in like a V shape, and they like lean to the side. Sandra Lee plays Tiger Lily, and she's incredible. She's a great actor. Her facial expressions, so interesting, so watchable. You can't take your eyes off of her.
I have to say, I developed a little crush on Tiger Lily in that one.
Right? Same with me. I was in love with her as a kid. Yeah. Like, I knew from a very young age that I, had a strong preference for women, and boys did not interest me at all. So I was just like all a gaga for Tiger Lily. I was obsessed with her, man. But okay, let's start with talking a little bit about some Mary Martin. What a doll. I mean, she was 47 in 1960 when she filmed this.
Oh, I didn't.
Right?
I didn't know that. That's
I was
amazing.
shocked to learn that. Yeah. And Mary Martin just simply stands there and sings her song. And I would like to play a little bit of that song now. Actually, first I want to play the intro, because when this film, you guys, this was magical for me. Okay. When you put like I was saying to Paul, if you put a stethoscope up to my heart and you want to hear what the sound of Jade's heartbeat sounds like, you will hear the soundtrack to The Wizard of Oz, and you will hear this Peter Pan soundtrack. This film brought me such joy as a child. This was a huge awakening for me as to I need to be an actor. There's one thing that I can do in this world, and it's this. I'm going to perform. I was overwhelmed with delight when I first watched this. And I remember very little of my childhood. And this is something that I do remember vividly. I remember sitting in my living room, laying on the floor. I remember the gingham couch and the paisley chair that was next to me. Like, I remember exactly where this hit me for the first time and how much it meant to me and how much it still means to me. I can't tell you how much fun I had rewatching this. There were some things though that stuck out to me that I didn't realize. When Mary Martin first shows up and she flies into that window, I was flooded with this remembrance of how magical it felt to me as a kid, that fluttering sound, but also how very scary it was as a child. So let me play it for you. Oh, chills, man, chills.
Tinkerbell.
It's very scary.
That's great.
You know, like that sound though, that this okay, so the music is by Mark Charlap, Julie Stein, and most of the lyrics were Carolyn Lee, and also lyrics by Comden and Green, the famous lyric duo, Betty Comden and Adolph Green. This soundtrack is incredible. Ivy, do you agree?
If you're asking me to choose between the music in this one and the music in the cartoon, I will definitely take the musical. Except Never Smile at a Crocodile, still my favorite song of all of them. So if they could have wedged that in there. Now, Bernstein did a musical, well, he did a play with music like a couple years before this version. It's very interesting to me that Disney and then Bernstein and then this version all kind of come out in this very little clump of a time with different songs, with different emphasis on where those songs are going to go and the style of those songs. It's very interesting that these three kind of powerhouse groups got together or didn't get together and did their own little versions of this. It's kind of fascinating, but this is, I think, the best one.
Yes.
Overall. Yeah.
Yes.
That first song that she sings, the Neverland song, is one that will stick in your head for you ever.
Yes. You mean the one where she sings about Neverland? Neverland?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the first ballad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great.
It's beautiful.
That's a great tune. And it goes melodically. It goes in places that I wasn't expecting it to go. When it goes ba da 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 ba da 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 da, it dips down like that. I'm not expecting it to go there. I'm expecting that to still rise, and to take that little bit of a dip into a minor key is really effective, and it really sets up this idea that we're going on an adventure. It ain't all going to be fun and games.
I was so into this musical in particular because of the dark places that it went, where I don't think that they would probably go if this were to be like remade musical for children nowadays, you know? But Mary Martin is so great. And I just want to talk about her portrayal of Peter Pan, because I know that she's a woman, right? She's a woman. Like, it's very obvious that you're watching a woman, but there's something about her. And she's a 47-year-old woman, you know? But there's something about her that is, she gets what it in the mindset of a little boy, and I buy it. Do you feel this way at all, or did you never at any point in watching her buy it?
Mary Martin does a great job of playing that childlike innocence. She might do that better than any of the other Peter Pans.
I'm saying, man, I might be saying it.
She hits a gear where you don't even think about her gender.
No,
You don't think about
you get
that
into
at
a
all.
place when you're watching it, and okay. So it wasn't just me. You were kind of like buying it.
It's so obvious that she'd been playing this role for a few years, and it was so obvious that she felt very comfortable in that skin. I am this person, and as long as I don't give you any reason to disbelieve it, why not believe it for the next 2 hours?
Yeah.
And for me, that's the magic of theater versus the magic of movies.
Yeah, right.
Movies, you gotta buy. Like Mary Martin couldn't play Peter Pan in a movie, but on stage, there's just nobody better.
Another part of her performance that I really enjoy is she's not self-conscious as a performer, and she lets herself go kind of a little like ugly, and not ugly, but like a grubby little kid, you know? I want to play an example real quick from my favorite song that she sings, which is the I Got a Crow song, because this is another hard thing for Peter Pan to make believable. Crow organically. Just, I dare you, give it a try. It's like cackling, like an evil laugh, you know, like, I'll get you, my pretty. Like, it's very difficult to make that. And I could just go into it like it's nothing because, yes.
I know you can.
Yeah. I may have played the Wicked Witch a time or two in my day. But yeah, it's not easy to take something like just cock-a-doodle doing, like that's, like you do it every day, 20 times a day, just because you're feeling, I got my coffee. Like, you know, it's not, to make it sound natural is just a feat, you know?
I gotta brag. I think it's sweet. I have fingers and feet. I can wiggle and wag.
I can climb trees and play tag with the breeze and the meadows below. I got a crow. Okay, I'll stop.
No.
It's dangerous for me to do this, Paul. It's dangerous. So something else I want to talk about in the musical is the humor. This is very funny. That's one of the things that I think I appreciated about it as an adult.
I'm told they find me lovable. How can I break it to him that they find him lovable? No! Bicarbonate of soda, no! Not even... It's me. From mother's last words to her sons.
These are my last words.
Thank you. Take them in and fetch in the plank.
These are my last words. Thank you. And when he said, no, bicarbonate of soda, no. I was like, I never heard that before, you know?
I want you now to wax rhapsodic about Cyril Richard.
Oh, my Cyril.
Because I know you can.
I love this man, Cyril Richard. You guys, he's so good. He's so delightful. And if you're listening to this podcast right now and you're just waiting for us to get to, you know, the live action, we're getting there. Okay. We're getting there. But this is my podcast and I will love on Cyril Richard if I want to. And so this is my moment because I'll never get another moment to talk about it. I love this man. I love him so much. So first of all, let me just talk about his costume, right? He has it going on. I remember as a kid being so pleased by his appearance because it was exactly what I pictured when I would read the book as a kid. Because I read the book first, and then I watched this film, and then I watched the cartoon. That was my was my introduction to Peter Pan. And then I think I saw the play after that. I might have seen the play after or before the cartoon, but whatever. I was just so... The way that I think he's the only Hook to be portrayed with like a double-pronged hook, which is kind of silly, but it's kind of more creepy.
Oh, that double prong comes back in one of the live action movies.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yes. Put a pin in that. Put a hook in that.
I've got a hook in it. I definitely do. He is great as Hook, and I really also think he's great as Mr. Darling.
Yes. I think that that's one of the hardest things to do as the actor who plays this role is doing both of them believably and making them both different enough, but like clearly similar enough. And you really get the sense that these children love their father and wish that he was not so strict. But in the very same breath, they're thinking, but if he wasn't strict, he wouldn't be father. And father, it's like, no, father, don't be so strict. But then when you take them away to Neverland and they're reflecting on their father, they're like, yeah, but my father has to be that way because that's what being a father is. You know, like the children really start to understand why and like to start to appreciate their father's burden.
And I will say this, if you're out there thinking about making another Peter Pan, and you're not thinking about making Captain Hook and Mr. Darling the same actor, rethink it.
Please stop.
You have to make them the same actor. Mm-hmm. It is imperative. I really thought when I was watching Hook that what they should have done is made like Dustin Hoffman, Robin Williams' boss in the real world.
Yes, thank you. That was so missing. Yes.
Yeah. And then there's a connection there. Then there's a reason to call that movie Hook. And maybe he's also having this moment where he's like, I vaguely remember being someplace else with a hook on a hand, and maybe you give I don't know, but I haven't really thought this out.
I vaguely remember being with a hook on my hand.
Yeah, I mean, but maybe they both have to go back to Neverland. Maybe that's they both have to go back. I thought that was a real missed opportunity, especially when you get someone like Dustin Hoffman to play that role. Yeah. It's like, let's give him something to do. But even the 2023, I mean, as much as I love Alan Tudyk, it's like Jude Law's right there.
Okay.
Let him play Mr. Darling.
We'll get there. One second. Before we move off of the musical, I gotta play you one more thing because I'm itching to get to it too. I'm itching to compare 2003 to 2023. So, before we get into all of that, because it's not all good, it's not all happy. It's kind of the majority of not happy. Actually, we're about to get into not happy land. So I just want to have one more breath of glorious happy. Play you listeners and viewers. Hopefully, you guys are viewing this on YouTube because it's really special with these clips. We're going to watch some Cyril Richard. You're welcome.
Oh.
Here we go. It's one of his like Cyril Richard things that he always does this. Oh, like he does this thing. He makes this noise with his throat. It's hilarious. It's hilarious whenever he does it, but it's especially good when he does it as Hook. So here you go.
On with your plan, Captain. To cook a cake quite large and fill each layer in between with icing mixed with poison till it turns a tempting green. We'll place it near the house, just where the boys are sure to come. And being greedy, they won't care to question such a plum. The boys who have no mother sweet, no one to show them their mistake, won't know it's dangerous to eat so damp and rich a cake. Ha ha! And so, before the blinking of an eye, the boys will eat that poison cake, and one by one, they'll die. Yole! It's just so damn delightful. It's just so damn delightful. I'm so delighted right now.
He's having a ball. He is having
that scenery,
ball.
Man. Just chewing it and savoring it.
Those songs, it's not quite Gilbert and Sullivan, but it's getting there. It's like Gilbert and Sullivan for kids. We can't go full HMS Pinafore, but we're going to do something very close to that.
That's something that is actually, I was shocked to remember that's from the book. There are lyrics written in the book. Captain Hook sings a song about himself. They get their instruments out. So like it is not a stretch for the pirates to be singing musical pirates, like it's in the book, man. Hook is singing about himself. And it's in the book repeatedly talking about how well he plays like the harpsichord and like creepy ass instruments.
I want to ask you one question before we get off the musical. What do you think of the ending? The afterthought ending? Because this is really the only one that we're going to be covering that really lands with that afterthought ending. For those of you who don't know, the story doesn't originally end this way. But he wrote a thing called What Wendy, I can't remember what the title of it is, but it was subtitled An Afterthought. And it's basically what Wendy did afterwards. And this is the part where she's grown older. She has her own child. Peter Pan comes back, says, hey, let's go. And she says, can't, married, old, can't do it.
Can't, married, old.
He starts to cry. Her daughter wakes up, Jane, and boy, why are you crying? A little bookend there. And she's like, hey, my mom told me all about you. I've been kind of waiting for you. Let's go. And mom comes back in as like they're ready to leap out the window. And mom comes back in as like, whoa, 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 whoa. And Jane's like, it's just for spring cleaning. And the cycle begins anew. That ties into that whole thing that's at the beginning of the story, which is that all this has happened before and will happen again.
I remember like being very dissatisfied with the ending of Peter Pan because Wendy grew up and got older. I did not like that. I wanted Wendy to always be able to go with him. But I do remember after I watched it a couple of times, and it's just so weird that like I remember very little of my young childhood, very little. And the fact that this movie can make me remember exactly how I felt at that age, it's like this movie is incredibly, oh my God, like I just got a little choked up thinking about it. Like this movie is incredibly valuable to me because like through watching this movie, I'm able to like remember things that I like have suppressed from my childhood. And it's like really special, you know, like when things touch you like that in that way, oh God, when things like affect you like that, you know, hold on to them, like find things from your childhood that evoke those feelings, because as you get older and older, you know, they get like farther away, like it gets, you know, those memories like slip farther and farther away. So yeah, this is so precious to me because it transports me right back there. But, I get why she has to grow older. And then, like you said, the cycle begins anew. But then once I saw the other adaptations of Peter Pan that didn't include this, I remember liking that better. Like, I just don't think that it needs this. Not for me, anyway.
I think the reason that you don't see that ending is because you can't do it with a male actor. If one of those other boys in that we're going to be talking about in the other movies does it, it's a creepy male immortal stealing another child.
Yeah.
You know, you believe that Mary Martin's going to bring her back.
Yeah.
Because she's playing that very childish, very, I mean, in a lot of ways, very sexless. Any boy playing that part and then coming back for the young child, that's to me, that's problematic. And so I'm glad those other movies didn't tack on that ending. I think it's just too weird.
Yeah.
But Mary Martin pulls it off. That's
another thing that they excise from this version, because I think we're dealing with a woman and Wendy. Like, I think that they were afraid that would read as weird if they were giving each other kisses. That whole kiss thing. Like, Wendy does get shot in the heart, and her button does protect her heart from being shot, but there's no kiss that was given to her by Peter. There's no thimble. None of that is in this one. So, but in the musical, there is that moment where Mary Martin and Maureen Bailey, who plays Wendy, they have that conversation about where Wendy says, "What are your exact feelings for me?" And Peter Pan goes, "Well, those of a devoted son, Wendy." And she was like, "Oh, I thought so. Like, damn it." And she, right from the book, she says, "You and Tinkerbell are so strange." She says that there's something she wants to be to me and it's not my mother, but she won't tell me what it is. And Wendy's like, "Yeah, she won't tell you what it is. I know what it is, you know." Wendy's like, "I feel you, Tinkerbell. No one's going to get this one, you know. Can't pin him down." In the end, where Mary Martin dresses up as a pirate and she disguises herself to be among the other pirates, and she is so like Lucille Ball in her Physical Comedy, and she like jumps in another one of the pirates' arms, and he's like holding her, and she's got like a kerchief on her head and like an eye patch. It's really funny.
Yeah.
And the way that Hook like, you know, kind of like offs himself, I guess, is like, and that's how it happens in the book, is he like accepts his own death and he like jumps into the sea. But in this version, it's he like water slides to his death.
The water slide was so amazing. I was like, I did not remember that moment. And obviously, I don't think in my high school production, we had a water slide. But I loved that moment where it's like, how are they going to get off they're going to slide off. Oh, this looks like fun.
I'll show you the road to dusty death. There'll be a holocaust of children. There's something great to the idea. Ah! The croc, the croc, the croc can. No words of mine can express me utter contempt for you.
Yeah. He says, I'll make a holocaust of children. That's a great idea. And then no words of mine can express my contempt for y'all.
Oof. It's great.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty good. It's pretty good, man. All right. I will stop myself. I could go on and on and on and on.
Well, we will get to the modern day in just a moment.
I've brought someone to be our mother. She's Wendy, and she can tell stories.
John and Michael didn't want to hear any stories just yet. They were anxious to make friends with the Indians, or fight some pirates, or go hunting with the lost boys.
So my good friend Charity Dawn. Hey Charity, how's it going, babe? I love you.
May I just say for just a moment, Charity Dawn, great name. Great name, Charity Dawn. No notes on the name. Fantastic. Continue.
Her a great lady. Yes, she has been an awesome supporter of Perfectly Marvelous, and now she's listening to us on Shall We Compare These? So thank you.
Thank you, Charity.
And she wrote an email that says, Peter Pan, ! My fave is the one with the obnoxious, I do believe in fairies, I do, in 2003, which came out when I was a preteen, and I had the biggest crush that ever crushed on Wendy, and the one, she said, I have the biggest crush that ever crushed on Wendy, and the one I hate with a burning passion that surpasses no other is the 2015 Pan. That's the one I was confusing it with. So yes, I was reminded about what a huge deal this 2003 Peter Pan was, because everyone had such a crush. All of my friends had such a crush on Jeremy Sumpter, but Charity, I am right there with you. I was all about Rachel Hurdwood. I remember loving her. So yeah, and when I talked to some other friends about that I was going to do a Peter Pan podcast, they were like, oh, and you're going to do the 2003, you're going to compare the live action, right? And I'm like, I really should talk about the 2003 one, shouldn't I? And they're like, the millennials are going to kill you if you don't, Jade. And I'm like, it's true. So we had to include it, and I'm really glad we did.
I'm glad we did too. I found this to be a very faithful adaptation of the story. Top to bottom, I think this is one of the better performed Peter Pans. You were talking about, I have to start with Jason Isaac.
Yes.
So good. I loved his take on Mr.
Good.
I loved his take on Mr. Darling. I loved his take on Mr. Darling as the kind of the nervous, uptight person. It's a little bit different, but it's not totally out of left field. You start to believe, at least I did. That was one of the very few ones that I was like, oh, that is definitely, when he's Captain Hook, he's definitely Mr. Darling playing out a fantasy of his own, where he is the brute. He is the strong man. He's the one in charge.
Yes.
It's really great. I loved seeing Lynn Redgrave, even though she's a little, she's pushing that edge. She's pushing it.
Yeah. Her character could have been the character Aunt Millicent, played by the amazing Lynn Redgrave. Her character really could have been a bummer. It could have been like, why you got this here?
Yeah.
What an unnecessary, I'm sorry. It did not. First of all, the parents stuff could easily suck and be like, why are we cutting to this? Why do we want to sit? No, not here with these two. I loved the parents. I loved Lynn Redgrave's character. I don't think she took anything away from Mr. Darling. I think that she served to flesh out the Mr. Darling point of view, because if Mr. Darling is overbearing on Wendy, telling Wendy, you got things to worry about, kid. You got to start thinking, get your priorities in order, like grow up. You got Aunt Millicent doing the same thing on top of him.
Right.
So it really serves to like you were saying, the full circle where things begin, they end again. Like behind every bully, there's a bigger bully,
Right.
like hurt people, right? Like, so you can always have compassion when you look at why someone is being such a meanie, and so her character is pressuring the father, and it really builds up the idea of Wendy and her father's animosity toward each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, I just feel like this film is doing such a good job at justifying the character's behavior, justifying why Wendy runs away, justifying why she wants to go to Neverland, and justifying why the father feels so bad, making the end make more sense when he finally comes around and grows a heart like the Grinch,
Right.
It's just everything feels so justified. And I think it's because we spend so much time in London before we get to Neverland. I loved the amount of time we spent with the family and getting to know them as characters in the real world first.
Right. Of course, directors want to get to Neverland as fast as possible because that's where their imagination gets to run wild and they get to make all their things. Yes, go ahead.
I'll say Disneyland they have a theme park, and they have tickets to sell. And I'm pretty sure that the director, sorry, what's his name, who directed 2023? David Lowery. I always forget his name. I'm pretty sure that he was given an order from the big wigs, the higher ups, that said, you got to get him to Neverland by 20 minutes, guy. Like you can't, no lollygagging. We're on a schedule here, and you got to make that ship fly. That ship's got to flip over. We got a new roller coaster to build. Come on, let's go. You got requirements need to be met.
Something to be said about the versions that are Disney sponsored or Disney made and the versions that aren't. It doesn't necessarily, Disney's involvement doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad, but they definitely care about different things.
2003 version, they got no axe to grind, man. They are just telling a J.M. Barrie's story.
Yeah.
Is what they're doing. That's what they're concerned with.
I want to ask you, do you prefer, at the beginning of these stories, do you prefer a version where the kids have heard of Peter Pan, or do you prefer a version where the kids have not heard of Peter Pan? I liked this version where it's a new thought to these kids that they could go to this place with this young immortal and go have the adventures. It really gives this one a little bit more weight because they are going into the unknown in this one.
Yeah.
The decision that Wendy makes, not only to go herself, but to take her young brothers with them, has this moment of danger that the other ones don't, because they're not enraptured with the story, but they are enraptured with the idea of going to have adventures. So, when she's standing on the edge of that window, that shot of her and Peter Pan standing on the edge of that window, that's the first moment where I felt like, oh, you got to take that step. I felt like I was on that ride again. It was like, is it 2 feet down? Is it 20 feet down? Am I going to survive this? They're taking on, they don't know Peter Pan can make them fly. They're taking this, they're taking this guy by his word that I can make you fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really enjoyed that uncertainty that's in that moment.
Yeah. I think it speaks to the bigger themes of childhood and what is to grow up is to jump into the great unknown.
I'm going to read some of my notes here. Oh, this tinker might be too much. And I have her name somewhere, unless you have it right there on your fingertips.
Oh, Ludivine Sagnier?
Yeah.
She is an incredible actor. Mm-hmm. She's incredible at physical comedy. And they describe her in a behind the scenes featurette about this film on YouTube. They describe her as the female Charlie Chaplin. And I think that is bang on the nose correct.
Oh, that's
She
interesting.
is giving me Charlie Chaplin. Yes. Do I like this for Tinkerbell? It's not that as an actor especially, I appreciate what she is doing. But it just felt a little too much for me.
Yeah.
It did. And that was my first note too. I'm like, why are we being so over the top hokey though? Like this, it's just a little sticky, cartoony. And the thing about it that bothered me the most, that I think that she could have been over the top, really extreme Charlie Chaplin reactions and this crazy physical comedy. I think that all could have played if it didn't seem so obvious that she was alone with a green screen behind her doing all of this stuff to no one. I really never got the sense that she was reacting to another person. Ever.
Well, that is the tragedy of all these actresses that have to play. I mean, the musical does it right. Make it a beam of light.
Make it a ball of light.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, don't subject.
I feel like such a lame-o curmudgeon, like, I don't like my Tinkerbell being too over the top. Stop having too much fun, Tinkerbell. Because no, like, this is the thing. If you're asking me to choose a live-action Tinkerbell, I guess I would probably have to say this one. But it's just a bummer that it's so difficult to create Tinkerbell and have her played as a human and make it at all believable that she is actually talking to another human.
Yeah.
Because I never, in any of these films, I never believe it.
Though
it's very difficult.
I have to slip into the movie Hook for just a moment.
Yeah, let's do it.
And just talk about this great scene in Hook where Julia Roberts. I mean, how Julia Roberts was
Lord.
like on top of the world in this, and I don't know why she chose to do this. But there's a scene where she has to she like flies into like a dollhouse. And so then Robin Williams as Peter Pan is like talking to her inside the dollhouse. And then she is
little bug.
Yeah. And then she is standing. What I took from that is like, oh, good. She didn't have to go to a green screen today. They just sent a camera over to her house. She's like, give me one cameraman and a boom. I'll put the outfit on. I'm going to do this in my living room. And I'll be standing up. There'll be no green screen. And it's like, it doesn't